Okay, so this is Zoe versus Lissandra in Platinum 2. Say hi, I'm Kevin, I'm a Zoe OTP that you totally forgot how to play the game / carry. Hit high done multiple times, you always felt like you didn't deserve it, because again, they without knowing what you were doing. Okay, that's interesting. Just, yeah, okay. In your eyes, only won games because of mechanics, not because of macro. I mean, that still means you deserve it, right? I think it does anyway. I feel like I'm a big coin for players. Season has been rough, had no impact in games, feel like all I can do is pray for one of my laners to get ahead in a good champion, otherwise it is almost always a loss because I have no impact. Struggling this season has a huge impact on my ego / mental. I have multiple coach sessions with friends who master challenge reload, doesn't seem to help out, that's why I'm here submitting a replay. Things you struggle with are base timings, jungle tracking, never know where the enemy jungler is and you have no clue how to keep track of it. Only good spot to ward is the raptor camp. Never find any good times to roam, scared of end of the throw. Wave control, I have no idea what to do with the wave. Next, Grandmaster Zoe OTP told you just to push in 99% of the time and look for roams. Trading, getting confused in matchups because I'm focusing on getting the wave push where enemy is trying to fight you early. Okay, I think this is really good that you have some sort of idea of what, like, whether or not you actually struggle with these things, at least you feel like you struggle with them and you don't really know about them. So I will write down kind of on this Zoe versus Lissandra coaching here. We'll kind of go through them. So the first one, we'll talk about early game, obviously from the replay. But jungle tracking and warding, we can make our own little thing for that. And then what else do we have here? Early game, wave control and trading will definitely be under this. Base timings, yeah, that'll probably be in there too. Roam timers, okay. Well, let's kind of address some of the ones that we can talk about before the game even starts. So the first one is jungle tracking and warding. So I think I have a video on this that I would recommend you watch after this video if you haven't already, but it'll kind of just like explain things I'm going to explain here. So the thing with jungle tracking is that for the most part, people actually overcomplicate this a bit. You don't actually need to know where the jungler is exactly. Like, you don't need to know if they're in base or they're on which camp they're on, you know, blue compared to Gromp or stuff like that. All you need to know is which side of the map is the jungler currently on. Are they on top side or are they on bot side? And the way to normally do this, or at least I think the way that's kind of best to keep yourself alive for most of the game is I'll kind of make like a step-by-step process. So step one is at level 1, like find out where the jungle starts. So most of the time you're just going to know because someone's going to leech. Like for example, if top lane starts in lane and their bot lane doesn't show at level 1, that means there's jungle starting bot side, right? And vice versa, like if their top lane starts in lane, or sorry, if their bot lane starts in lane and their jungle's leeching, that means they're starting top side. So that gives you an idea of which side they're going to be on the map at level 1. And then step 2 is to hug the opposite side of where they started until 2 minutes 30. So here's the reason. Basically, if they, let's say you're this blue side mid laner here, if the jungler starts top side, there's like a couple paths they can do. They can either do like all their camps and then swap to bot side. They can do like a couple camps, swap to bot side. They can even do like 3 camps and gank mid. But basically, the reason like you want to hug the opposite side is because if you hug like this side of the lane, until 2 minutes 30, there is no way that they can be here unless they're doing something like red and then mid. But this path is like extremely unlikely, and even if you die to this, you might even still be winning the game, but especially if you're like just burn flash to it, it's just so inefficient that you'll be doing really well. So basically, that means you're going to be safe from any ganks from this side, and it also means that they can't gank you from this side in time, right? So you hug that opposite side until 2:30. Then step 3, at 2 minutes 30, ward the opposite side, so of where they originally started. So again, the reason for that is that at 2 minutes 30, you should know that the jungler is going to be on this side. So if you place a ward, like right here, for example, and I'll talk about ward spots in a second, if you place a ward anywhere on bot side, there's no way the enemy jungler should be able to gank you through any way on this side because you have a ward, right? And now this ward stays here until about 4 minutes is where it's expired. So step 4, at 4 minutes, swap back to the original side the jungler started, place another ward. So at 4 minutes, this ward's going to be gone. You then swap back to top side, and then you drop your ward over here. Because by that time, the jungler should have cleared all the camps up here. If they're still on bot side, they won't be able to gank you, because you'll be hugging the other side. And if they base and recall and come out top side, you'll have a ward to spot them. So that's like a really easy way. Again, I'll just like put it on the screen for you. That's like a really easy way to just like be safe to pretty much any jungler gank for the first like 5.5 minutes, I'd say. And then after that, it's harder to figure out where the jungler is. So after that, mainly just hug to wherever your vision is. And we'll talk about this in the replay, but like having one pink for this is like really helpful, because at that point you're not going to have both trinkets because they're both going to be on cooldown. But if you have one pink, it can like allow yourself some vision. But basically, yeah, it's like this should keep you safe until about 5 minutes 30, and then by that point you should have based. And then it's hard to track the jungler after that point, but as long as you play towards your vision, it should be fine. Now, the second thing about ward kind of placement is most of the time, early game, you're going to want to ward in the river. So, I'll first say that if you ever ward this bush, it's normally pretty bad because it doesn't actually provide much vision. It provides very, very limited vision. Normally, if you don't have time to get a good ward, you just ward a ward slightly outside the bush, like say right here or right here, because that provides like a lot more vision. Probably the ideal wards, if you place them correctly, is to place them at the very edge of this bush. And same with on the bot side. Now, it is really important that you place it on the very edge, because this circle is not actually accurate, but if you place this ward in the middle, like this, they can actually sneak through here, and you can't see them. If you place it on the very edge of the bush, like this, it actually spots them walking through, so that's, like, really important. It's the same with the other bush on bot side, down here. If you're versus a jungler that's not particularly good at ganking, then Raptor ward can be good, but the problem with that is, like, you know, if it's a jungler that's good at ganking, they might skip Raptors anyway, and they can just gank you through here. So against those champions, you're better off warding like this, like on the end of these things here, or just like ward in the bush. But yeah, generally I'd say my first ward is like either here in that bush, or like right here. So one of these three locations, either like right outside the bush, at the edge of this bush, or at the end of this wall. Now, once you get a pink ward, that can allow you to kind of put vision a bit like further up. So for example, you can pink this bush and then you can ward there, because that'll like allow you safety, right? Or you can like even pink this bush and say like ward here. Personally, I think it's always better if you can pink these bushes here and then go for deeper wards, like, you know, this one, this one, this one, this one, or if we're looking at this side, like here, here, you know, basically just like the main things to keep in mind is that, so your ward placement should be based off the enemy jungler. Like if they're really good at ganking, you need to make sure you cover a lot of gank paths. If they just farm, then warding Raptors is often better. And also, pinks allow you to place wards deeper, basically. So that's quite a lot of stuff to spend on. I mean, quite a lot of time to talk about just like jungle tracking and warding. But I felt like, because you feel like you don't understand it at all, I think that's like a really good kind of place to start. And if it still doesn't make sense, just ask me afterwards, or go and watch my jungle tracking and warding video, because I think, yeah, it's like this, but I kind of explain it a bit more. Next thing is roam timings. I also have a video on this, but the TLDR of roam timings is there's a lot of stuff to consider. So I would say like waves are an obvious one, both like where your wave is and where like the wave you're roaming to is. Another thing would be like HP, like how much HP does everyone have, CC. Like, are you walking to a lane that has, like, CC, or is it a lane with no CC? Are there cooldowns up, both your cooldowns and their cooldowns? Also think about, like, where the junglers are. You know, like, if your jungler is on top side and you're ganking bot side, normally that's bad. And yeah, like, there's some other kind of minor things you might want to think about, like, stuff like win conditions and that, but I think it'd be better to kind of just, like, look through the actual game. But again, I'd really recommend checking out the video that I have on that already, because I think it's going to explain it more than I can in the time I have here. But these are some of the things I think about when I'm roaming, and I think if you just like roam randomly, it's very, very badly. And then the other things we got here, like base timing, wave control, and trading, it's kind of all matchup dependent, but I'll do my best to kind of explain it throughout this video. So yeah, let's get started with this, basically. So we're playing Zoe versus Lissandra. Wow, you got 2 million Zoe points. That is a lot. I respect that. Okay. Let's go through this. Okay, so first off is, I think I am not a huge fan of the setup, if I'm honest. So, okay. First off, I'm going to talk about like runes itemization. Let me make a little thing here. So generally, you go Doran's Ring in easy matchups / matchups where you won't take much damage. So examples of this could be stuff like Corki or Veigar or tanks or just stuff where they're like either not going to hit you back or they just can't hit you back in any meaningful way. Versus pretty much any range champion as Zoe, you're always going to take damage because Zoe is very short range. So like Corrupting Pot should be default because it's very hard to avoid taking damage on this champion. Yeah, because you're so short range in lane and you're going to take poke. And yeah, also like pretty much whenever Zoe's trading, she's always going to take damage anyway. Like not just from poke, but the fact that you like have to walk up to your opponent to like hit them with the second Q. It's just like you're pretty much always brawling as Zoe early. And then the second thing I would say is I think Transcendence is really, really good on Zoe. So it's up to you. Like I think when I play Zoe, depending on matchup, I sometimes drop. Let me just open up my match screen. I can show you actually. So this is like this is since the patch. This was the 13.1b patch. This is Zoe games I've played since. And I think like if you're versus melees, especially taking Scorch is pretty good, which I think I should have here. Yeah, you can see this game I skipped out on mana flow. So I would say that Transcendence is like a must. And then it's like, do you want to take Scorch or mana flow? And so in my mind, it's like I think mana flow is like nice, but if you manage well, then you don't need it. But again, like I think it's like just easy to take. And I think Scorch is especially good versus melee because you can proc it very often. So like this game here, I think I would probably not take Scorch, or I would not take mana flow. I think I'd not take Scorch because I think Lissandra is a matchup where mana is pretty important because she's going to be pushing a lot. So I think you can optimize the runes and items a little bit to start with, but yeah, it would be like sort of minor, I suppose. It's like gameplay is definitely what matters most, right? Now what was the enemy jungler? Let me actually go back because I wasn't paying attention. Enemy jungler is what? Okay, enemy jungler is yeah, but they have Lissandra. Okay, so first thing is that most Zoes actually queue the backline with their first creep, with their first Q. This is again, it's sort of, yeah, I'd say if you want to push faster, like if your opponent's contesting to push, like most range matchups will, it's better to kill the range creeps. Now, obviously, you can't always access the range creeps, but normally, like if you just put your first Q and you kind of like throw it here towards the back line, and then you can do the same with the next Q. You can normally always get pushed in the early game of Zoe, but queuing the melees is not quite as effective. It is if you want to slow push, like really slow push. You know, if you're against like a melee that you're going to get pushed into anyway. It's like if you're versus Silas or something, that would be better. Okay, so yeah, here would be the next thing. So you only want to kind of push as well, like generally you want to push as slowly as possible while still pushing. And the reason is that when you're pushing, you have like minion advantage. It means you're going to hit level 2 first, means you're going to hit level 3 first. But there isn't that much advantage to pushing quicker, because if you push quicker, the wave ends up in a position where you can't actually harass your opponent because it's too close to their side. And also it reduces the amount of time that you have to actually harass your opponent, right? Because like you want to extend that level 2 and level 3 advantage like as long as possible. You want to have the wave pushing to them, but not under their tower for as long as you can, right? So that's why generally people kind of slow push the first 1 and 2 and then fast push the third one, and that way you get like 3 kind of crashing waves, right? So here, this doesn't like make that much sense, because if we like look at this, right, you before you use the second Q, you have already secured push. Like if we just look at this, like you are already, like just before you use this Q, you're about to be 2 creeps up or 1 creep up over your opponent. Almost 2 actually, because this creep's almost dead. So this is like guaranteed slow pushing to your opponent anyway. So using this Q is just like, it just doesn't do anything for you. It makes the wave push faster than you want it, which is bad. And it also puts you on cooldown for 6 seconds, which gives your opponent a chance to harass, like they do here, right? Like you get punished with a Q and an auto for using that Q. Yeah, Yeah, okay, so you're getting destroyed basically for wasting your cooldown, which is like kind of makes sense. So, the kind of most important things here so far are that, like, generally, like, slow pushing is better, and like slow pushing 3 waves is ideal. The way to do that is to just like slow push first 2 waves and then fast push the third one. So what should happen is you push this first one really slowly, the second one try not to auto too much other than last hits, and then the third one just like nuke it as quick as you can, and it'll end up going over. Another thing is like anytime you use a CD to push slash farm, expect to get punished. So ideally you don't want to do that, right? Like if we have a look at this, like, let's just see it again. So this Q, you probably, instead of doing this, you want to just either look to Q your opponent, or just like Q and auto your opponent even, or just don't use Q. I would say Qing your opponent's probably the best. Yeah, I'd say like Qing your opponent is the best when they go for CS, because you always want to try harass your opponent when they go for CS, but you get insanely hard punished for wasting this cooldown. Like you lose so much health, and especially because you don't have corrupting part, it's even worse, right? And in fact, you use another cooldown here wastefully. Like let me see it again. So this is kind of coming back to like if you use cooldowns to CS like this, that's like another really long window, about like 9 seconds or whatever, where you can just get like mega hard punish. And you can see, right? Like I would say at the moment the lane is like kind of over. Like you can definitely win it, right? But like the wave is in a really unfavorable spot because you've pushed it too fast. So even if you get level 2, it's not like you can bubble her, it's not like you can really harass on the tower. You've lost so much health. It just looks looks really bad. So like at this point, queuing the wave sort of makes sense because your wave is like so doomed that you kind of have to get it in. Because like the thing is, you really don't want the wave here. You want like the wave out here for as long as you can, and then like crashing under the tower. But here is very difficult because it's like you're very gankable, and it's just like very hard to actually like punish there, right? Because it's just too close to their tower. So yeah, basically like a lot of queues have been wasteful. I think the runes anonymization and stuff have also made it difficult. But okay, the wave goes under, which we're fortunate. Now, where did the jungler start? I was not paying attention. Level 1. Okay, so it looks like their jungler... Yeah, okay, so their jungler is starting top because you see their bot lane started, which means you know Yi will be pathing bot side. Okay, so you go for the Raptor ward. I think if you are going to ward this, you can maybe get away with it because Yi's not a great ganker, but also remember that your mid has gank set up. I think it'd be much better to place the ward like maybe right here so that it can see the very edge of Raptors, but also it like shows this path. Because yeah, I think you can definitely get ganked by Yi given that Lissandra has gank set up and you kind of don't really have anything, right? Like you don't have cleanse, you've lost a lot of health. Okay, so now, one thing that is a little bit different about Zoe compared to other champs is Zoe is not very good at freezing waves because Zoe really needs the wave to be pushing to actually harass. Like, it's very hard to Q and E people past the creep wave. So here, it kind of makes sense to be pushing, but at the same time, if you're going to Q this, you should Q the range creeps. And you need to, like, be pretty respectful. Like, okay, I think, like, before, using the cooldowns was kind of wasteful because the wave was already pushing. Here, using a cooldown to get the wave pushing, I think that's fine. But you need to respect the fact that your cooldown is down. So, like, yeah, you need to, like, both respect and punish cooldowns. So here, you need to be, like, real careful for, like, 6 more seconds until you have your Q ready. And a second thing is that you really need to think, like, how does my opponent trade? Because here, you really don't want to stack with the creep wave. You don't want to make it so that she can push the creep wave and hit you at the same time. Because here, you actually, like, give her the money shot. Like, if you stand out here, you're completely fine. Like, at best, she can queue, like, 2 creeps and harass you. But the way you stand here, I think she hits every single creep and you. So that's, like, an insanely valuable queue. And it mainly just comes from, like, bad positioning. And yeah, I would say, like, until, like, at this point, you can probably just look to hold cooldowns because she's not really gonna... Yeah, I don't think she can really look to push this wave back. And if she uses a Q to push the wave back, then you can punish that cooldown, or you can, like, match with a Q. But I think now you're kind of forced into queuing again. You know, like... Yeah, okay, so that feels really awkward. Another thing I'd say, just, like, in general, is I pretty much never take W second on Zoe anymore, just because the chance of getting a good sum is way worse than it used to be. Like, there was a lot of old good sums that you could get, like Redemption, for example, or Protobout used to be a lot better. Now, it's pretty much always better to take E level 2, and that just, like, gives you more... It just, like, gives you more threat, I think. Okay, you hit a nice bubble. Good harass. Should be able to kill this guy here. Yeah, okay. So it's nice. He just ends. This guy has TP, so you're kind of in a rush to push this in, but I think you should be okay. Yep. Goes under. Okay, so you get pretty lucky and your lane gets saved. So here, I'd say itemization is sort of bad. You definitely want a Darksteel early. Darksteel is the most OP mage item, and it's not even close. So you basically always want to get a Darksteel as an AP champ at some point, almost always first base as well. So I'd say like right here, especially given that you have mana flow, you definitely don't need mana. So I would go probably Amp Tome, Darksteel, Pink Refillable, I think would be my buy. Okay, yeah, so you buy like a single health potion, which is definitely not as good as refillable, and I think the actual buys are kind of bad. The pink is good, but yeah, so like first base, things you really want to be thinking about, Darksteel, refillable. Like those are the two best ones, because it's like if you didn't start Corrupting Pot, you kind of need refillable. Obviously, if you have Corrupting Pot, then you don't need to worry about it. And then yeah, after that it's just like bonus things, like what can you buy, like Amp Tomes, tier 1 boots, etc. Okay, so come back to lane. So you should be fine again because it's like Yi, so I don't think you can get ganked a whole lot. You can just like look to push. Yep, so this is fine. Like I think, yeah, this is kind of what I was saying, where like pushing a Zoe is completely fine. Now here, this really doesn't make sense. You do not want to be like wasting Q here, because like the thing is, after you get a kill, right, you have a big item advantage over your opponent, and you're about to hit level 5, so you can have a big level advantage over your opponent too. That means you really want to be looking for trades. And the wave is in a very difficult spot for Lissandra right now, because it's pushing to her, but the minions are kind of low, so she's going to lose some on the way in. The way I'd be thinking here is like, I'd probably try position here or something, and if she ever Qs this creep wave, just run at her with E and Q, and there's no way she can fight back. I think right here, to be honest, she probably would have gone for this Q anyway, because she's like not very good, but especially once you use your Q, now it's like fine for her to use her Q, because it's like not a great punish, right? Like you're walking her off the wave, which is good, but you don't actually have the the Q to follow up any damage, so she's getting away with a lot more stuff. And same thing again here, like you really need to get out of the habit of using abilities to CS. You only need to use abilities to CS if like you can't get the CS like otherwise, or if like you really need to push the wave. Instead, every time you're just like wasting cooldowns. Okay, good bubble. Nice. Yeah, I mean, combos is fine. Just keep fighting this guy. You have red buff, and you're level 5. Nice. You get the flash. Yeah, Trin's actually going for it. It's just, okay. Doesn't look too good, but fine. I don't... I guess, like, it's not too bad to use Q there. It's, like, fine, but it's not, like... Hold on, let me just shut my door real quick. Alright, I'm back from that momentary distraction. So, yeah, as I was basically saying, I think where I was... Oh my god, what just happened? I clicked on the note, that's what happened. Where were we? I think we weren't that far in. We were like here. Okay. Yeah, so back to where we were. I was saying this Q, I think it's like okay. I don't mind it too much, because I think you're going to end up probably having Q by the time you want to do something here anyway, so it should be fine. And you know Yi died, so you don't need to ward like ASAP. Yeah, I think that Q usage is kind of fine. Good harass as well. So yeah, like other champs maybe would look to freeze here, but Zoe, there's pretty much no point. Yeah, I like Qs like this. Because again, like this wave is not guaranteed to be pushing. And you've already got a big lead over your opponent, so you don't really need it to slow push. You can just look to harass, so I have no problem with any of this. Like, remember that you kind of want to slow push until you get an advantage, and once you have the advantage, then you either start to freeze or to fast push or something like that. So before, like early, you didn't have much of an advantage at all, right? But now it's like you have item advantage, you have a red buff, you have health advantage. Like you're way ahead at this point, so it makes sense to kind of keep pushing and keep bullying her. So I guess like what I can say so far is like you probably snowball reasonably well, because like your wave control kind of fits that, but I think like the way your early laning was, it was just like lucky that you got fed. You know, it wasn't like because you played it well, at least in my opinion. But anyway, wave goes under, you have a huge amount of gold, so you go what? Tome and blasting wands. Empton Boston. I guess it's fine. I feel like it's weird to not have Dark Seal and Tier 1 boots at this point, but also if you buy Dark Seal Tier 1 boots, you have a lot of gold left over now. So I think it's just because your previous base was messed up. In fact, it's probably better. Yeah, actually, okay. Especially because you have Mana Flow and you have a blue. You should go Blasting Wand, which is 850. Blasting Wand boots Dark Seal. I think that's what the buy should be here. Yeah, Blasting Wand boots sell pink for Dark Seal. Also, did you not have an opportunity to place your pink? Guess you gotta place it right now. Okay, this is like not too bad because the jungler was dead, but as like a general rule, so I'll just put this, but general, wait, that's not how you spell general. Let's just start again. General rule, like if you go past like halfway point of mid with no ward slash pink, it's really scary. So like let's just like take a look at this kind of point here, like for the nodes to disappear. Like if you look at the map right now, you pretty much have no vision top side or bot side. Now I don't think you're gankable right now anyway because their jungler is dead, but normally now would be like a good time to ward, right? Like if their jungler are alive, you would want to go ward and then you could come back to harassing in the tower. So yeah, it's fine here, but it's not going to be fine every time. Then yeah, I think that buy could be optimized a little bit. Remember that, like, obviously Lost Chapter is a really good early item, but if you have so much mana that you're not using it all anyway, then having extra mana from Lost Chapter doesn't really matter, and it's better to have other stuff. So here you probably want to just like crash this wave as quickly as possible and then place all your wards. Definitely back off. Yeah. I'd say it's maybe, this is quite nitpicky, but I'd say it's maybe a little greedy to ult forward like this when you don't have any vision or flash. Now, you don't get punished for it. Like, I guess it's pretty unlikely, but it's probably better to come get vision. Okay, so like here would be an example of a roam you could go for. So I think you're sort of fed, like you have your cooldowns, you don't have flash, your jungler's on that side, the wave is pushed, and your wave's far away. So I'd say you can probably roam to this, but you definitely want to drop a pink on the way. Like you definitely want to pink this bush that you're going to pass right now. Okay, we're looking bot. This should be good. Like everything looks good here. You have like everyone nearby. There's CC in this lane. They're pushed up. So I would say this is like a good roam. You should be a little careful like how long you stay here. I think you have time, but... Okay, so the thing I'd be thinking like at the very end of this, the reason I'd be thinking it is like, just look at your mid wave. So you really don't want to end up losing the mid wave. So you have like a bit of time here to look at this. But if they end up getting out, then you just like really need to get back to that mid wave in time, which I think you will. Yeah, okay. So you get back to the mid wave in time. You still don't have any vision though. So really at some point you should have pinked that bush. Because it makes it much scarier to keep pushing waves. Okay, maybe right now we can get some vision. Okay, so I think this ward could be deeper. Like, I think that ward should be, like, further down here. And you really need to place this pink in the river. Because, to be honest, you can't really ward like that until you have control of the river. And that's what the pink gives you. Because, like, so far you've bought this pink, but you just, like, haven't really used it. Are we going to use it now? No. Okay. So that pink, yeah, it needs to be placed in the river. It can be topside or bot side. Probably top side now that Herald's spawning soon. But, like, you bought this pink ages ago, so it could have been bot side. Because you really want to play aggressively on these waves. Okay, yeah, this is really bad. So let me talk about this. First thing, you generally want to put your vision towards one side because having more vision on the same side is better. So like if you're going to place all your vision bot side, like place a pink and a ward bot side. Don't place like a pink top side and a ward bot side. Normally that's not good. The second thing is that every time you push a wave to your opponent like this, right? They get free farm. So you have to be trading something for it. Now, pushing one wave of free farm to get really good vision, that's a pretty worth trade, right? Like, I would say that if you use that wave to get lots of control, that's worth it. But now this next wave, you push this to your opponent. And so there's lots of things you can trade here. You can like look to roam, you can look to harass on the tower, you can go for deep wards, you can do whatever you want. But just pushing the wave, not harassing them under tower, not taking that plate that's on 1 HP, not doing anything except coming here, this is really, really bad. You're just allowing your opponent to farm even though you're 4-0. And if you base here, oh my god, please tell me you don't base here. Oh my god, no. Okay, so it's tempting to want to base here because you have Ludens, right? But the thing is that any time spent in base is time spent like not pressuring the map, basically, right? And so like you really don't want to base on full HP / full map because that means basically that you are able to pressure the map and you're basing. Now, if you have so much gold that you should just base, then you can, right? Like here, you have 1.1k, which is like, I mean, you have a spike, so you could base, but I think it would be better to wait for at least 1.5k because then you could get item plus boots. So here, I really don't think you should base, and I think you should be looking to pressure instead. Yeah, like, you still have so much pressure in you. Like, full HP, full mana, you can destroy this Lissandra tower, and instead, it's like she gets that wave for free, she gets this wave for free, because you're in base. It just doesn't... You're just not pressuring your lead anywhere near as much as it needs to be, pretty much. Okay, so we're finally going to place this pink, please. Okay, again, as I was saying at the very start, this... I guess it doesn't matter too much on this side, because it's not like you're going to get ganked from your own jungle. But normally you want to place that pink on the edge of the bush. I guess it's fine here, though. Okay, so... Yeah, you should definitely be looking for trades. Yeah, I like that. This was good. Like, she used all her cooldowns and you look to punish, which is nice. Okay, so like this roam, this is not a good roam compared to the other one. So the reason is that this time your like wave is pretty cooked. Like if you go to this, you're definitely giving up a plate. And by the time you're going down here, your bot lane is just like dead. I think this is like a really, really bad roam. Yeah, so this ends up just being a waste of time. So like previously, right? Like your bot lane was still alive by the time you got there. Your wave, oh, you can't see it because of the notes, but your wave was like at your tier 3 tower last time, and this time it's at your tier 1. And last time you had Ignite, and this time you don't. So I could tell you pretty early that this wasn't going to be a good roam. Is this actually going to work out? No, it's not, right? And this is another thing, like the longer, if you push another wave here and then look to roam, like maybe that works, but you really don't want, Lissandra to be able to come here, because it doesn't really make sense that Lissandra is able to get here, given that you're so much stronger, right? Like it should be, you push and then move, and Lissandra is stuck mid, but instead it's like, because you spend so long here, Lissandra can actually come, and while you're still stronger in the team fight than the Lissandra, it's like, she shouldn't even be allowed to be here. Okay, and then you just come down here and die. So this is like a massive throw, and it's definitely making the game like very difficult because like you got this massive lead over Lissandra and it doesn't really feel like anything's come of it. Like you haven't really punished Lissandra under tower. You haven't gotten like any more solo kills other than like the early one. Yeah, like the roam just kind of ended up bad. You guys haven't secured Herald as a result, so it's like it just hasn't really converted into anything, I guess. And I think it's mainly because like when you push those waves, you don't really use them very well. Like you push the wave and then the priority is just wasted. But the good news is that's like pretty easy to fix in my mind. So yeah, don't take it as like a roast session. Okay, so roaming bot here, let's see. This is a cannon wave. So okay, here I would probably stay, actually no, I'd probably get vision. I'd probably like ward their raptors and then stay mid. So cannon waves are a really good time to get plates, because they can tank for a long time, and Zoe is very good at taking plates. And then when you took a look at their bot lane here, it's like this wave is on their side, they're full HP, and your jungler is still very far away. So if this is a roam, it's probably on the next wave, not this one. So you come down, I think this ward's not in the best spot, but it's like decent. By the time, I mean, I guess it's gonna work out, but I feel like this was kind of low percentage. Like, in a way, you're actually, like, lucky that your bot lane died here, because that's the only way they've actually been pushed up. Okay, so you end up getting one, which is, like, not bad. But I think this shouldn't really have worked out that well for you. Like, I think right here, if the enemy team is thinking about you, they shouldn't trade too heavily, or they can just like look to back out now. And also, Lissandra should just push mid and like take 2 plates, and then this play is like not even that worth it. Like she can push this wave and the next. Instead, like Lissandra is down here. Okay, and then if you do commit to this and you see Lissandra not showing mid, then you need to know that she's here. So I would say this roam was like a bad decision, but it had a good outcome. But actually, the really bad thing here was that afterwards, you didn't even realize that Lissandra wasn't showing mid. Because, like, if she's not mid and she's not top, it's like, where else can she be? She just, like, has to be here. And to be honest, you don't want to walk mid here anyway. Because you have 1.8k gold and you have half HP and half health. So you can't really pressure the map on this health anyway. Like, it doesn't make sense that you're trying to stay here. So, I guess this is where we talk about, like, base timings. So generally, like, we're talking about base timings. It's stuff like how much like gold / resources do we have? So this can be like cooldowns, HP, mana. And it's kind of like you answer the question of, can I pressure the map? And if so, like how hard can I pressure the map? Like right now, I think you basically just can't pressure the map. You know, you're just like too low. And you have 1800 gold. And I'd say like 1500 gold plus, you need to like try find a base soon. Ideally also base without losing anything. Like, you don't want to base and lose creep waves for it if you can. But at the same time, like, if you stay on the map for too long, at some point, you just have to... You really have to give something up. So again, there's another, like, really unnecessary death. Yeah, Sork Shoes... It's probably fine, yeah. I think going no mercs is a little... What did they have again? Let me check their comp. Okay. No, I think you can get away with no mercs. I think sometimes first list, depending on their jungler and stuff, you might need mercs, but this game, I think you can get away with it, so it's fine. This is missing. You just look to push. Yeah, now, here, it's very hard, I think, to use this wave for anything, because it's very scary to push up to her tower with no flash, and you also have no wards really to place, so... you come bot again. Not really a fan. So, this is like... Okay, you push, and it's just, like, difficult to hit her tower, so it makes sense that you try and do something. But again, like, looking at their bot, they seem like relatively high HP. The wave's not really pushed towards them. Your jungler's on the other side. Actually, Xerath is low. I guess you can look at this, but as soon as they... If you back around now, like, you kind of clicked back, I think if you'd done this and then turn around like you did here, and just gone back mid, I actually think this would be fine. But I think fully committing to it is bad, because it means that you're probably going to give up the next wave if Lissandra's smart. But actually, she's not. She's, like, not even there, so... You're definitely getting a bit lucky with the roams. Like, you're not getting punished at all. Like, to be honest, this game, you kind of just punish yourself with the roams. Okay. So you're basing. Did you base? Oh, you're going at Horizon. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, pathing here. Yeah, I think it's fine. Like, this looks like it is going to be a big fight, so I think it's fine to be here. Bubble's good. Okay. Okay, nice combo. No, she still has ult. Okay, you push. Come to secure drag. I think that makes sense. This is all fine. I was hoping that hit him too, but... Okay. Get another one here. Nice. Then Jace kind of comes out of nowhere. Okay, I would probably not expect the Jace. Okay, so you like blast comes over the wall and you don't see it. Yeah, I don't really mind this death. Like, in my mind, this should be your first death of the game, where, like, this guy just comes out of nowhere. I guess you should probably flash the Q. Like, as soon as you see him there, you probably need to flash the hammer Q, and I think you should be able to live. But, yeah. I mean, if you're surprised, I would be surprised there too, so I don't hate it too much. That should really be your first death, though. Okay, just coming back on the map. You're farming mid. So far, everything is fine here. Like, the mid game doesn't look too bad. Getting poked, which is annoying. I was gonna say, how did you bubble this guy? But it was an ash arrow. Okay, that's annoying. ADC diff. Yeah, not a whole lot you can do there. You're hitting some nice bubbles. That is the 2 million Mastery Zoe. I think if you just flashed, yeah, okay, nice. We're on the same wavelength here. I like that. Okay, so you base, you should probably path mid if no one else does. Looks like you have to. This guy's dead to someone. Trin's going top, so you can farm mid. Yeah, I mean, so far this is kind of a chill mid game. Like, honestly, you haven't really had to do anything at all other than just, like, farm mid. So that's always the easiest type of mid game. Like, sometimes you get forced into side lane to Zoe, which is kind of annoying, and you got to know how to deal with that. Whoa, what is this guy up to? Oh my god. Even fit in the missing ping into the combo. I like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's, like, literally nothing really to talk about here. Okay, one thing is if you take damage here like you just did, you probably need to base as soon as possible because dragon is spawning soon and you want to be as strong as you can be for that drag. So like right now, think again to yourself, like can you realistically pressure the map on this HP? I'd say probably not. And because dragon's spawning soon, if you had started your base like right now, I think. So we started like what, 2109, finish it up 2117, and then we're back on the map probably like 2130. So you would be like back on full HP, ready to pressure about now. And that would mean that it's like really easy for you guys to secure this dragon. Instead, it's like now you have to base, right? So yeah, you should be here now instead of being in base now. So this is like, let's talk about mid game. So, oh my god, we got a lot of little sections here. It's because you asked so many questions. But mid game, the most important things is to keep up like gold and XP, which you have. Try not to share golden XP, which you have, so you've done well in that. But I think you need to be like, you generally want to base around like 1 minute before dragon spawns because you want to be as strong as possible in order to fight that. And also another thing would be just like your kind of team fighting identity. Like those are the things you need to think about for mid game. But I think your team fighting has kind of been fine. So yeah, I'm just like kind of bringing it up. Just, yeah, like, so you should be here, and you could, like, if you were here, remember we said 2130 is when you'd be on the map. So, like, you would be here right now with Echo. Echo starts drag, you're here, you're ready to poke. You can help Echo here. Yeah, like, you two win this fight for sure. So, yeah, this drag going over is, like, indirectly your fault. Actually, pretty much directly your fault, actually. And then, okay, here's another thing. Is in the mid game, you really need to... The mid game is, like, really hard in solo queue because you need to, like, track and adapt to your teammates. Because the way the mid game should be played out is, like, real different from how mid game and solo queue actually does get played out. So you need to, like, check what your teammates are doing and adapt to them. So, like, right here, for example... Your two teammates, given that you were off the map, they shouldn't have died, right? Like, you were in base, they shouldn't have tried to start drag. But the reality is, they did. So you've got two teammates dead, which means your job here is just to play safe and try not to chain it. Like, it's really common in solo queue that someone dies, and then someone else will die while that person's dead, and then someone else will die. Basically, there'll just be, like, a bunch of chain feeding, right? So here, you need to stop the chain. You need to realize that you pushing this wave with two teammates dead and no one's showing on the map. Like, no one's showing top side, no one's showing bot side. You have no vision around mid. This is insanely greedy. And even if you get this wave, it doesn't do anything for you. Like, you can't hit that tower. You can't ward their jungle because you have no one on the map. So, like, not only does this priority not matter, it's insanely risky. And, yeah, you're just, like, dead for it, right? Yeah. I'm glad you got punished for that. You end up losing tower, which is kind of your fault as well. Coming bot side, which is, I guess it's fine. Yeah. Okay, go back to mid. Kind of tough to play Zoe at this point. Like, Zoe once the team starts losing is really rough. But you definitely had the opportunity to just carry this game. It does look pretty rough now. Okay, Baron goes over. Like Zoe into Baron is also useless. So I'd say this game's like pretty over, and maybe if you can like 1v9 some team fights, you can get back into it, but the lead has like definitely been thrown. Oh, that was so sad. I feel for you. Nice, I like holding it to steal a kill. This R is a bit risky, okay. Nice, good poke. Got the Rabadons. See what else. Is there anything we can do? We can kind of just like poke and... Okay, you headshot that guy. Okay, this guy's just an auto attack abuser. You managed to dodge everything, nice. Yeah, I don't really think there's too much here. I guess this is like sort of the same thing. Like, you are contesting the wave really greedily here, even though your teammates are really far away from you. So I guess you should like try and think a bit more about what your teammates are doing. But at the same time, it's like there's been so much gameplay up until this point that I kind of just don't really care that much about this because yeah, it's just like way more important to fix mistakes earlier in the game than ones later in the game. Because obviously all the mistakes you make early game, they affect the rest of the game, right? Whereas this only affects the last like 2 minutes of the game. So I really just don't care that much. But yeah, I guess it ends there. Okay, so I would say that the most important things for you are, and we kind of talked about a lot of stuff, but I think probably the most important thing would be like level 1 to 3 wave control. I think that can really easily be fixed. I think cooldowns, just like, you should definitely watch my cooldown video that I made. There's actually a lot of homework for you to do. Like the roam video, you probably don't need to watch that one actually. The jungle tracking video, maybe I covered it all here, but the cooldown video I think definitely would be good. So cooldowns, both like punishing and respecting, plus trying not to like waste them, the CS. I think that's like really, really important. I think maybe a bit of like warding, just like it can be further out, it can be like optimized a little bit. I definitely think roaming slash base timings, like you're right, they need to be cleaned up, mainly because I think now that you probably know what to be aware of, it's actually going to be fine. But yeah, and then I think another thing would be like adapting to teammates. Like if they're dead, like you need to play a bit safer, stuff like that. I also think like priority usage. So a lot of the time in the early game, you kind of push the wave and then don't really do anything with it. Like, actually, I don't know. It feels like the only thing you use priority for is roaming. And a lot of the time, roaming is not the best thing to do, right? Like you don't often go for deep wards. You don't often punish your opponent at the tower, stuff like that. I guess like maybe there's like also other little things like thinking about how your opponent trades and stuff like that. Um, like make sure you're basing like a minute before dragon spawns, all that sort of stuff. But I'd say these are like the biggest things. And I think like you've got, because obviously you're pretty good at Zoe, right? Like you had a lot of really good bubbles and you got like 2 million points on Zoe. So like I can definitely see why you were high diamond before, right? Because your skill at Zoe is enough to kind of carry your skill at the game. But your skill at the game is honestly not too bad. It's just like you need to kind of clean up the early game a bit, and like if you go back in this VOD and kind of look at the early game part again and like how I explained it, and then also just like trying not to like make these so random. You need to like have reasons behind roaming and basing, not just doing it randomly. So I actually think you self-diagnosed pretty well in terms of stuff that you weren't good at. But anyway, I will copy this all to you, and obviously you'll be watching the video. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And also, I'll probably message you as well, but please let me know if I can upload it publicly, because I think especially a lot of the early stuff would be really useful to other people. So yeah, good luck.